I waited until they were gone, then changed every lock and had security cameras installed. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from. Now let me explain how I ended up hiding behind my own front door, watching my daughter-in-law parade strangers through my house as if she owned it. Because believe me, no one could have predicted this. 3 months earlier, my life had looked completely different. I was Margaret Stevens, 63, newly widowed, and naive enough to think my son Kevin and his wife Rebecca actually cared about my well-being. After Henry's funeral, they hovered constantly, so concerned about me being alone in the old family home. "Mom, you need something new, something to look forward to," Kevin said gently, squeezing my hand like I was made of glass. Rebecca chimed in, her eyes soft with feigned sincerity. "We just want you to be happy again." But what they really wanted was my inheritance. I didn't realize it then. At the time, I mistook their sudden curiosity about my finances as genuine concern. The moment I mentioned Henry's life insurance payout, their eyes lit up like children on Christmas morning. "You should invest in something stable," Rebecca suggested smoothly. "Real estate, maybe." Kevin nodded right away. "Something that gives you both security and purpose." So when I stumbled across the listing for the old Victorian on Elm Street, I fell in love instantly. 6 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, wraparound porch, hardwood floors, the perfect place for family holidays, summer barbecues, and visits from grandchildren I rarely got to see. The price was steep, but Henry's insurance money covered it in full. For once, I listened to my instincts and kept the purchase quiet. Something about Rebecca's eyes narrowing whenever I spent money on myself had taught me caution. I bought the property under a trust, hired a management company, and stayed silent. For 6 weeks, crews worked nonstop. Fresh paint, a remodeled kitchen, refinished floors, landscaped gardens, the works. I wanted everything perfect for the big reveal. In my head, I saw it clearly. Kevin's proud smile when I handed him the keys, Rebecca's tears of joy, the grandchildren running through wide hallways. A fresh start for all of us. But reality turned out far different. On the morning I planned my surprise, I arrived early for a final walkthrough. The chandelier sparkled, the counters gleamed, the master suite looked like something from a magazine. My excitement was buzzing as I called Kevin. "Can you and Rebecca meet me for lunch? I have something wonderful to show you." "Actually, Mom," Kevin replied cautiously, "we're out looking at houses today. Found an amazing place that might be perfect for our family expansion." My heart leapt. "Are you having another baby?" "Not exactly. We're thinking about Rebecca's parents moving in. Her mom's arthritis is worse. Her dad needs help with medications. We really need a bigger place." Perfect timing, I thought. "That's wonderful, honey. Where are you looking?" "This gorgeous Victorian on Elm Street. Huge kitchen, 6 bedrooms. Only problem is the price. It's way out of our range." The words made my stomach drop. They were looking at my house. My secret surprise was about to crash into their disappointment, unless I stepped in. What if I helped with the down payment? "Call it an early inheritance," I offered. Kevin's voice lit up instantly. "Mom, that would be incredible." "Are you sure? It's a lot of money." "I'm sure. Send me the address. I'll meet you there." An hour later, I pulled up to see Rebecca striding across the yard like she already owned the place. Phone in hand, she was pointing at the garden I'd just landscaped, talking about my design for the master suite. Kevin joined her, and together they measured windows and debated furniture placement. They weren't acting like buyers. They were planning as if the deed already had their names on it. That's when I realized my mistake. Not buying the house, trusting them enough to see it before I told them it was mine. I decided to play along. They eagerly gave me a tour of my own home. Rebecca ran her fingers across the marble counters I'd chosen, cooing, "I can already see myself hosting dinner parties here. And this master bedroom, it's perfect for Kevin and me. Your room could be the one near the guest bath. Small, but adequate. My sanctuary, reduced to a spare corner." Kevin chimed in with a grin. "The whole layout is perfect, Mom. You'd love the community. Quiet streets, great neighbors, a park you could walk to every day." I smiled, but inside I was seething. In their minds, I wasn't an equal. I was the aging relative, tucked into the smallest room, grateful for scraps. And the money I provided? That would become their equity, their future, their house. Rebecca kept pushing. The only challenge is the sellers want cash. No financing. Something about a trust, which means we'd need the entire purchase price up front, even with your help. She sighed dramatically. So close to perfect and just out of reach. They looked crushed, and that's when I realized I had a choice. Reveal the truth now and hand them their dream on a silver platter, or wait and see how far they go. What if we looked at something smaller? I suggested carefully. Rebecca's smile tightened. Margaret, this house is perfect for our needs. Kevin's father would have wanted us to invest his money in our family's future. This is exactly what he'd encourage. Her casual manipulation stunned me, using Henry's memory to justify sticking me in the smallest room while they took everything else. You're right, I said slowly. Henry would want us to make smart decisions. Let me think about this overnight. That evening, I sat in my old home, staring at the deed with my name on it. I had been ready to give them everything. Now I wasn't sure I owed them a thing. The next morning, Kevin called before I'd finished my coffee. Mom, we've been thinking about that house all night. Rebecca barely slept. We really believe this could be the fresh start our family needs. I sipped my coffee, steadying myself. I understand, Kevin. It's a beautiful house. The thing is, we went by there again this morning, and there's already another family looking at it. The realtor says they might put in an offer today. I almost laughed. There was no other family, no competing bid. I own the house, but Kevin is inventing urgency to pressure me into a hasty decision with my money. That's unfortunate, I said, keeping my voice calm. Mom, we need to move fast. If you're serious about helping us, we need to make an offer today. Full asking price, cash. That's my entire inheritance. Kevin, I know it's a lot to ask, but think about the return on investment. Property values in that neighborhood are only rising, and you'd have a beautiful place with family nearby to care for you as you get older. Take care of me in the small bedroom while they build equity with my money. Let me call the realtor directly, I said. If I'm investing this much, I want to speak to them myself. There was a pause. Mom, Rebecca's already been handling the communication. She's built a good rapport with the agent. Maybe it's better if she continues. Kevin, if I'm writing a check for $350,000, I am speaking to the realtor myself. After I hung up, I called the property management company I'd hired. Sarah, I need you to relist the house immediately. Same price, same terms. And if anyone calls, tell them the previous offer fell through. Mrs. Stevens, you own the house. Why would you want to list it? She asked. Because I want to see exactly how far my family will go to manipulate me. 2 hours later, Kevin called back. Great news, Mom. The other family's offer was rejected. The house is still available, but we need to move fast. A cold knot formed in my chest. My own son was lying to my face, manufacturing urgency to force me to spend my life savings on a property I already owned. Wonderful, Kevin. Set up a meeting with the realtor for tomorrow. Let all three of us be there to discuss terms. Actually, Rebecca thinks it might be better if you wire the money first. Then we handle the details. Of course she did. The next morning, I received the most manipulative text of my life. Mom, the sellers accepted another offer. We lost the house. Rebecca's heartbroken. She was so excited about finally having space for her parents and maybe giving you grandchildren a real home. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by moving boxes, staring at my phone. What Kevin didn't know was that I'd spent the previous evening packing. Not so I could move into the mansion with them, but so I could move into it alone. I texted back, "That's disappointing. I'm sure something else." "We'll come along." Within an hour, Rebecca called. Her voice was thick with tears that sounded oddly theatrical to my newly skeptical ears. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. I know how excited you were about the house, too. Kevin told me you were looking forward to the garden and the big kitchen for holiday dinners." Interesting. I'd never said I was excited about anything specific. She was projecting what she thought I should feel. These things happen, Rebecca. The realtor said the other buyers might back out. Sometimes deals fall through at the last minute. If you're still interested in helping us, we could stay in contact with the agent and see if it becomes available again. I almost admired the persistence. Create false hope, Keep me emotionally invested. Keep the possibility alive that my money could still buy their dream house. I'll think about it. That afternoon, I drove to the mansion one last time before moving in. I wanted to savor walking through the front door as the rightful owner, not as an elderly mother being granted permission to live in the smallest bedroom. As I turned onto Elm Street, I saw Rebecca's car in the driveway. I parked at the end of the block and watched. Rebecca walked around the house with an older woman I didn't recognize, pointing at windows and gesturing toward garden areas, clearly giving a tour. They spent 20 minutes outside before Rebecca unlocked the front door with a key I definitely hadn't given her, a key she had to a house she'd claimed we'd lost to other buyers. I sat in my car, fury rising. Rebecca was showing my house to someone using a key she'd somehow acquired mere hours after telling me we'd lost the opportunity to buy it. Then she brought out a measuring tape. They measured my living room, dining room, and kitchen, planning furniture arrangements for a house Rebecca believed belonged to someone else unless she knew something I didn't. Unless the entire story about other buyers and lost chances was covering up something far worse. I called the property management company. Sarah, has anyone contacted you about accessing the Elm Street property? No, Mrs. Stevens. You're the only one with keys. What about showings? The listing was taken down yesterday when you asked us to. No one else should have access. But someone did have access. Someone was in my house right now, planning God knows what. I made a decision that changed everything. I drove home, called a locksmith, and had every lock on the mansion changed within 2 hours. Then I hired a security company and had cameras installed at every entrance, inside and out. If Rebecca wanted to play games with my property, she was going to learn I could play them better. The locksmith was costly. The security system was costly. But watching Rebecca try her mysterious key on my front door the next morning was priceless. I was in the living room, boxes unpacked and coffee in hand, when I heard someone trying the front door. The security app on my phone showed Rebecca on the porch, confused as her key refused to work. She tried several times, then circled to the back door, same result, before calling Kevin. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I watched her gesturing angrily at the house, furious that her secret access had been cut off. 20 minutes later, Kevin called me. Mom, the strangest thing happened. Rebecca drove by that house we were looking at, and she thinks someone might have changed the locks. She's worried there might be squatters or vandalism. Why would Rebecca be checking on a house we don't own? A pause. She thought she saw broken windows from the street. She was just being a good neighbor. The lies grew more elaborate but remained lies. Rebecca hadn't seen broken windows because there weren't any. She'd been trying to access my house with a key she had no right to. Kevin, how did Rebecca get a key to that house? Another pause, longer this time. What key? She tried to unlock the front door this morning. I saw her on the security cameras. Silence. Then Kevin's voice carefully controlled. Mom, what security cameras? The ones I installed yesterday on my house. The house I own. The sound that came through the phone might have been Kevin choking on his coffee, or it might have been the sound of their entire deception collapsing in real time. Your house? His voice was barely a whisper. The house I bought 6 weeks ago with Henry's life. Insurance money, the one I've been renovating. While you and Rebecca plan to manipulate me into funding your dream home with my inheritance. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally he spoke. Mom, we need to talk. Yes, Kevin, we certainly do. But first, I think you need to explain to your wife that trespassing on another person's property is a crime, no matter how clever you believe you are at avoiding detection. That evening, I sat in my elegant new dining room, eating Chinese takeout from paper cartons because my dishes were still in boxes, and reflected on how far this was from the evening I had originally envisioned. I had imagined hosting Kevin and Rebecca, raising glasses in celebration of their new home and the bright future we were building together. Instead, I sat alone, staring at my security camera, footage of my daughter-in-law attempting to break into my house, while bracing myself for my son's confession that they had been plotting to swindle me out of my inheritance, with calculated manipulation. The thing about hitting rock bottom is this. The climb back up makes the view infinitely sweeter when you've earned it on your own. Kevin arrived promptly at 8, his face drawn and aged by at least 5 years since our last call. Rebecca's absence spoke volumes about who had truly orchestrated their scheme. Mom, I don't even know where to start. How about explaining how your wife managed to get a key to my house? I asked. He sank heavily into the new armchair I'd bought, chosen for both comfort and longevity. The irony of him sitting there was not lost on me. She befriended Sarah's assistant, claimed you'd asked her to check on the renovations while you were grieving, and the assistant gave her a key for family access. I know it was wrong, but she was convincing. I had to admit, the audacity was almost impressive, even as my blood boiled. So Rebecca has been tracking my purchase for weeks? I pressed. Kevin nodded. She found out 3 days after you signed the papers. The bank called to confirm the wire transfer, and Rebecca answered your phone. She told them she had your financial power of attorney. That's how she pieced it all together. My grip on my wine glass was steady, which surprised even me. 6 months ago, this level of betrayal would have broken me. Now it only confirmed what I had long suspected. So rather than speak to me honestly, you both decided to trick me into funding your mortgage on a house I already owned? Kevin's face fell apart. It was Rebecca's idea. She thought if we confronted you, you'd get defensive about the money. She believed if you thought buying the house was our plan, you'd feel better helping us. Helping you buy property from me? Do you hear yourself? When you put it that way, it sounds like fraud. That's because it is fraud, Kevin. He buried his face in his hands. We didn't mean for it to spiral like this. Rebecca She got excited, started planning the nursery, making lists. She thought if she showed you how perfect it would be for everyone except me. I cut in. What was I supposed to get? The smallest bedroom? That was never the plan. He muttered weakly. I pulled out my phone and showed him the morning's footage. Rebecca cycling through keys, peering into windows, pacing in frustration as she called him. This wasn't the plan either, was it? The next morning, Rebecca phoned me directly for the first time in months. Her voice lacked its usual sugary tone. Margaret, Kevin told me about your little misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. You've been plotting to defraud me. That's such a harsh way to phrase it. We were trying to find a solution that worked for everyone. I almost laughed. A solution where you get a mansion and I get stuck funding your mortgage? That's not a solution, it's exploitation. You're twisting things. We never meant to hurt you. Rebecca, you impersonated someone with legal authority over my finances, gained entry to my house under false pretenses, and paraded strangers through it without my consent. Tell me, what part of that was meant to help me? Then her voice hardened, stripped of its fake compassion. Fine. You bought that house just to control us. You knew we were looking in that area. You wanted to dangle it in front of us, then snatch it away. The accusation was so absurd I laughed out loud. Rebecca, I bought the house as a gift. I was planning to surprise you with the deed. Right. That's why you hid it for 6 weeks. I kept it secret because I wanted it finished before I revealed it. Contractors were working day and night to make it perfect for your family. Prove it, she demanded. Show me paperwork that says you plan to hand it over. And in that moment, I understood. Rebecca had never once believed in generosity. To her, every kindness carried an ulterior motive. She couldn't fathom that someone might spend their inheritance to give, not control. I don't owe you proof of my intentions, I said firmly, but I can prove you've been trespassing and impersonating me. That's criminal. Kevin's your son. Family has rights, she snapped. Family has the right to honesty and respect, not lies and schemes. She hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Kevin called. Mom, Rebecca's upset. She feels like you're punishing her for caring about our family's future. Kevin, your wife committed multiple crimes. She is not the victim here. Can't we just talk this through? Find a way to make it work for everyone? I looked around my beautiful house and thought of the countless times I had sacrificed for peace. Kevin, I'm finished sacrificing myself so everyone else can be comfortable. For 2 weeks, the calls were relentless. Kevin in the mornings, Rebecca in the afternoons, sometimes both in the evenings. The rhythm was predictable. Guilt, bargaining, anger, then more guilt, and then came the blow. Mom, Rebecca's pregnant. The word stopped me cold. Pregnant. His tone made it clear this wasn't simply news. It was leverage. Congratulations, I said evenly. I'm happy for you both. But Mom, with a baby on the way, we need more space. Rebecca's sick every morning. She's worried stress will hurt the pregnancy. And there it was, the pregnancy card, dealt just as I was finding the strength to hold my boundaries. Kevin, I understand you need space. There are plenty of houses in your budget, but this one is mine. Mom, this house is perfect. Rebecca's already picked nursery colors. She's invested in it. She's invested in my house, the same one she tried to steal. She never tried to steal anything. She was just excited. I hung up and called my lawyer. Based on what you've told me, Mrs. Stevens said, your daughter-in-law may have committed fraud, trespassing, and identity theft. Do you want to press charges? I thought about my unborn grandchild, destined to be raised by a mother who treated manipulation as love. Not yet, I said. But document everything. If this escalates, I want to be ready. That evening, Rebecca appeared at my door. She looked awful, pale, exhausted, the pregnancy clearly real. Margaret, she whispered, can we talk? Just us. No Kevin, no lawyers. Please. Against my better judgment, I let her in. I'm sorry, she said softly, lowering herself onto the edge of my couch. Rebecca sat stiffly on my sofa, as though she was preparing to bolt. I knew I had handled everything wrong. The moment I discovered the truth about the house, panic had taken over. Kevin and I were in far more financial trouble than we'd ever admitted. His business was barely surviving. I hadn't worked since our wedding, and we were already behind on rent. It was the first genuinely honest thing she had said to me in months. Why didn't you just ask for help? I asked. Because you've already done so much, she admitted. You covered the down payment on our current place, paid for Kevin's car repair last year, and even bought his Christmas gifts when he couldn't afford them. I was ashamed to ask for more. I understood that kind of pride, the kind that makes you do reckless, foolish things rather than admit you need help. So instead of asking, you chose deception? I pressed. I thought if I made it look like your idea to help us buy this house, you'd feel good about it instead of resentful. I was only trying to protect your feelings. Her confession should have eased my anger, but it only intensified it. Beneath the apology was the same arrogant assumption that had fueled everything else, that I was too fragile to handle the truth. Rebecca, I've been managing my own emotions for 63 years. I don't need you shielding me from my own generosity. I know that now. I made a mistake, she said. You made several, I corrected. Identity theft, fraud, trespassing, lying to my son. She flinched. Kevin doesn't know everything, she whispered. What doesn't he know? Rebecca glanced around my living room. At the furniture I had chosen, the photographs I had hung, the life I had built without anyone's permission. He doesn't know I plan to convince you to sign the house over to us as an early inheritance, for tax purposes. Something cold settled in my stomach. Explain, I demanded. My uncle's an accountant, she said quickly. He told me if you gave us the house now, instead of leaving it to Kevin in your will, it would save thousands in estate taxes. I thought that after we'd been living here together for a while, I could bring it up casually. Her scheme was even more elaborate than I had realized. Rebecca hadn't only wanted me to finance their mortgage, she had intended to strip me of ownership entirely. And if I refused? I asked. I would have suggested that, since you're getting older, it might be wise to transfer assets to family to protect them from potential nursing home costs. Every word made the situation worse. She had researched ways to separate me from my own property, mapping out conversations meant to manipulate me into thinking it was my idea. Rebecca, do you understand that what you're describing is elder financial abuse? Her body went rigid. That's not what this was. What else would you call deliberately plotting to trick an elderly family member into signing over valuable assets? I was trying to help our family. No, you were trying to help yourself, at my expense. We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, children played at the park, their laughter floating through the air. Normal sounds, normal families, families who didn't rely on deception. What happens now? She asked finally. Now, I said firmly. You and Kevin figure out housing without my money or my property. Learn to budget. Get extra jobs if you must. Find a home you can actually afford. And raise your child to know the difference between asking for help and committing fraud. Rebecca broke down then, sobbing the way people do when they finally realize their choices have destroyed everything. "Margaret, please. I know I messed up, but we could still work this out. You could live here with us. We could pay rent. Everyone could have what they need." I looked at the woman who had spent months orchestrating a plan to steal my home, now begging me to allow her to do exactly what she had intended all along. "Rebecca," I said, "the fact that you think I should trust you with anything after all this proves you still don't understand how badly you behaved." 6 months later, I hosted my first dinner party in the mansion. Not for Kevin and Rebecca, who had moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment across town, slowly repairing their marriage with honesty instead of manipulation. Not for Rebecca's parents, who had disappeared into other arrangements once their daughter's grand plan collapsed. No, my table was set for my neighbors. The couple next door who had brought me flowers when I moved in, the widow across the street who had invited me to her book club, the young family down the block whose children helped me carry groceries. In 6 months, these near strangers had shown me more genuine kindness than my own family had in years. Kevin and I were beginning to rebuild as well. He called every Sunday now, conversations that were awkward but honest. He apologized often, insisted on family counseling, and worked hard to see how he had allowed Rebecca's manipulations to cloud his judgment. Rebecca and I remained polite, nothing more. She had given birth to a healthy baby girl, my granddaughter, whom I visited once a month under Kevin's supervision. Rebecca was civil, but her eyes still told me she believed I had overreacted, that I should have been grateful for her elaborate schemes. The true revelation came later, from my lawyer. "Mrs. Stevens," he said, "I think you should know. This wasn't Rebecca's first time. Her grandmother signed her house over to Rebecca's parents 5 years ago under nearly identical circumstances. False concerns about property maintenance, suggestions about tax benefits, and pressure to decide quickly for the good of the family. The pattern is clear. Rebecca didn't stumble into elder abuse out of desperation. She learned it, practiced it, perfected it. "What happened to her grandmother?" I asked. "She died in a state nursing home 2 years later. The family sold her house immediately after the funeral." The chill that swept over me was sharp. I thought about how narrowly I had escaped the same fate. If I hadn't kept the purchase secret, if I hadn't installed cameras, if I had been just a little more trusting, I could have ended up exactly like that poor woman. Instead, here I was, seated in my dining room, surrounded by friends who chose to know me, not family who had chosen to use me. My phone buzzed. A message from Kevin. "Mom, Rebecca wanted me to ask if you'd consider being the baby's guardian in our will, just in case." I stared at the text for a long time, weighing trust, responsibility, and the difference between love and enabling. Then I replied, "I'll consider it if Rebecca completes a financial literacy course and commits to family therapy for at least a year." His response was immediate. "She says that's unnecessary. We just need a simple yes or no." I deleted the conversation and went back to my garden. Some people never learn, but some of us learn just enough to save ourselves. And sometimes, that is the only victory that matters. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Mom, this house is perfect. Rebecca's already picked nursery colors. She's invested in it. She's invested in my house, the same one she tried to steal. She never tried to steal anything. She was just excited. I hung up and called my lawyer. "Based on what you've told me," Mrs. Stevens said, "your daughter-in-law may have committed fraud, trespassing, and identity theft. Do you want to press charges?" I thought about my unborn grandchild, destined to be raised by a mother who treated manipulation as love. "Not yet," I said, "but document everything. If this escalates, I want to be ready." That evening, Rebecca appeared at my door. She looked awful, pale, exhausted, the pregnancy clearly real. "Margaret," she whispered, "can we talk? Just us. No Kevin, no lawyers. Please." Against my better judgment, I let her in. "I'm sorry," she said softly, lowering herself onto the edge of my couch. Rebecca sat stiffly on my sofa, as though she was preparing to bolt. I knew I had handled everything wrong. The moment I discovered the truth about the house, panic had taken over. Kevin and I were in far more financial trouble than we'd ever admitted. His business was barely surviving. I hadn't worked since our wedding, and we were already behind on rent. It was the first genuinely honest thing she had said to me in months. "Why didn't you just ask for help?" I asked. "Because you've already done so much," she admitted. "You covered the down payment on our current place, paid for Kevin's car repair last year, and even bought his Christmas gifts when he couldn't afford them." I was ashamed to ask for more. I understood that kind of pride, the kind that makes you do reckless, foolish things rather than admit you need help. So instead of asking, "You chose deception?" I pressed. "I thought if I made it look like your idea to help us buy this house, you'd feel good about it instead of resentful. I was only trying to protect your feelings." Her confession should have eased my anger, but it only intensified it. Beneath the apology was the same arrogant assumption that had fueled everything else, that I was too fragile to handle the truth. "Rebecca, I've been managing my own emotions for 63 years. I don't need you shielding me from my own generosity.